Hello everyone, I know you might be surprised and hope you had a great day and great Christmas. Sorry I have not been uploading today. I will not be using my voice because I have been noticing my problems in life, so this will be the best way that I will try to upload videos. I know you didn't come here for my life story, so let's go to the video. Chapter 1, The World. Some important points. People will be able to see stands. Stands can influence people. Chapter 1, The World. Remember kids, stay with your partner at all times and don't get separated from the group. The teacher screamed as the class was coming from the bus. Bakugo grumbled, hating to be stuck with useless Deku, while Izuku was terrified from what the explosive boy could do. They were going to a trip to the museum, and even considering who his partner is, Izuku is excited. This museum, besides having the usual hero exhibitions, this one also had a section where they show old relics, centuries old decorations, clothes, weapons, etc. For 12-year-old Izuku, it sounds like a good time all around. Izuku was giving his attention to everything with awe in his eyes. It was all so interesting. There was so much info of heroes of today and yesterday. He looked to his side, and noticed that Bakugo and his cronies broke away from the group, and went towards the section of the Times pre-quirks. Keikachin. Wait, Izuku screamed, and Bakugo turned to him with a scowl. What the fuck you want? Bakugo asked harshly, and Izuku shook at his voice. The teacher said we need to stay together. Remember, Izuku said nervously, and Bakugo snapped his tongue. All that shit about heroes is boring as fuck. I want to see what the useless people from the past did. You know, dekus like you, Bakugo mocked as the cronies laughed. Izuku kept quiet as he followed the group. He was where he wanted to be. All these things were used before quirks existed. And no matter what Kachin says, these people aren't useless. Without these people, we wouldn't be where we are today. He stopped in front of an exhibition, where a mask made out of stone was in a box of glass. Izuku found studying the mask with confusion. The mask was ugly. It doesn't look like some type of decoration, and he doubts someone would wear it just because. He turned to the description of the exhibition, and it said, "The Mask of Immortality. Old legends says that whoever that wears this mask will gain the ability to live forever. But all at the cost of their humanity." Izuku blinked. It sounded so unreal. It was impossible to do something like that without a quirk. He never heard a quirk that can grant immortality, so a mask that can give it to you, created before quirks, it is just stupid. He walked away from the mask and looked where the rest of the boys were. He widened his eyes at what they were doing. Katsuki had in his hands an exhibition of the museum. A broken golden arrow as he grinned, and his friends laughed. Keikachin. Why you shouldn't touch that, Izuku said, and Katsuki glared at him. Are you giving me orders? Deku, Katsuki said, and Izuku shook his head. No. But you can get in trouble if someone sees you, Izuku said, and Katsuki grinned. Well, I think you are just afraid that I might do something with this, Deku, Katsuki said as he walked towards Izuku, and placed the tip of the arrow on his arm. With malice in his eyes, Katsuki pushed the arrow into his arm, making the boy scream of pain and falling on his bottom. Katsuki and his cronies laughed at the expression of pain of the green-haired boy, and they decided to leave not so long after that. Izuku sobbed as he rubbed his wound where blood started to flow. He walked to raise the arrow and place it back, but before he could touch the arrow, a golden, muscular arm came from his body, grabbed the arrow and left it on the exhibition. Izuku blinked as slowly, a golden man, came out of his body like a ghost. It looked at Izuku, and Izuku looked at him. The man smiled, raised his thumb, making Izuku chuckle, and wiped the tears of his face. Are you my quirk? Izuku asked, and the man shook his head. Then what are you? The golden man wrote with his finger on the ground, "Stand." And next to it, he wrote "The World." The world, Izuku asked, is that your name? The man nodded, and Izuku decided to read the description of the arrow. An old weapon that legend says that it grants people it stabs immense power. But people with weak wills, dies. Izuku gulped. It was a terrifying thought. If the world wouldn't appear, would that mean he would have died? The world decided to go back into Izuku as Izuku left the museum, noticing his class forgot him. With no other real option, Izuku walked towards his home, that wasn't that far away. So, can you talk? Izuku asked as the ghost came out of his body. The world nodded. Muda. You useless? Can't you say something else? Muda. I'll take that as a no, Izuku said, and his stand nodded before going into his body. Weeks later, Izuku was walking towards school, as people that knew him laughed at and pointed at him. Izuku looked at the ground as he started to scowl. He had been practicing with the world and he discovered a couple of things. The world is way stronger than most quirks, in strength, speed and reflexes. Every time the world gets hurt, he gets hurt. And, he is not useless. This people are. Muda. The world is unstoppable. Powerful enough to even freeze time for 5 seconds. Who are these people to decide that he is useless? This people that have Muda powers, with Muda ambitions. They are just that. Muda. Oi Deku, Izuku glared up to see Katsuki angered stare. Yes, Izuku spat, making Katsuki glare intensify. It seems someone grew a back spine. Tell me Deku, what happened to ya? Izuku glared at him before smirking and standing up a lot actually. For example, the roles had changed. Now the useless is you, Ka-chan. Katsuki gritted his teeth as he raised his fist to punch Izuku. Izuku didn't move, didn't blink, didn't stop smirking. He waited to the last second for the punch to touch his face. Katsuki was more than surprised when he punched air, and Izuku chuckling behind him. Izuku patted his shoulder before walking out of the class. Nice try Katsuki. But just like you, that move became Muda. Midoriya residence. Mom, I want to change schools, Izuku said as he saw his mother on the kitchen. Inko blinked a little. She had seen the change that her son had. He was looking more fit, he was more confident, and was more decided. Why that, honey? Inko asked, and Izuku shrugged. I think it is time for a change. I've been in that school my whole life. And besides, I want to be something else. Something else? You don't want to be a hero anymore? Inko asked, and Izuku nodded. I am quirkless. There will never be a hero without a quirk. So, I will try to save the world in another way, Izuku said, and Inko smiled. Well, if you think that is the best thing you can do, I will support you, she said as Izuku went to his room with a smirk. He sat on his bed and chuckled. The world came out and Izuku grinned at him. Everything is coming into place. In the future, no matter how long, I will change this world. I will make it better. Because I am the only one that can. Don't you agree? The world smiled and nodded. This will not be done in 1 or 2 years. It will take way longer. But in the end, he will succeed. Next chapter, To Live Forever. Chapter 1, The World. Some important points. Chapter 2, To Live Forever. 3 years. 3 years had passed since the day Izuku got the world. 3 years since he changed schools, and his life all around. He convinced his mom to change him to a private school. It was a little more expensive, but it was worth it. Better Muda classmates, with Muda personalities and Muda mindsets. He is the #1 student there, with the best behavior and best notes to complement it. He was close to graduation, and he had received a lot of offers for internships from big and small companies. Everything was falling into place. Soon, it will be time to move the first pieces. But there's still a problem. Even though the world is far stronger and faster than most quirks and has inhuman reflexes and senses, if something happens to it, something will happen to him. If the world breaks his hand, Izuku's hand will break too. He frowned as he walked home. There is a small amount of heroes and villains that can fight the world. And even if he doesn't react time, his body can't fight with the stronger quirks. What to do? He looked to his side, and noticed that he was in front of a museum. The same museum where the arrow is. A nostalgic smile formed on his face and decided to go inside for old time's sake. He bought his ticket and his first stop was the pre-quirk area. He walked until he was on front of the golden arrow. He rubbed the arm where the arrow pierced him years ago and scoffed. For more hate he has for Katsuki, he has to thank him for stabbing him all those years ago. After some minutes, he was going to leave. He wasn't really interested on the past or present. Only on the better future he will bring. He turned to leave when an exhibition caught his eye. The stone mask. The mask of immortality. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he walked there and read the description again. He remembers that he was creeped out the first time he saw it, now he is more curious about it. A mask with that grants the ability to avoid death, at the low price of your humanity. What does that even mean? You become some sort of monster? Why is he even thinking about this? The mere concept of this mask is stupid. But, if an arrow can grant you a power like the world, who says that a mask can't make you immortal? He closed his eyes with a smirk. Here we go, the world showed itself and Izuku grinned Zawarudo. Tokyo Toma, the world turned grey and time stopped. 5 seconds, the world punched the vitrine, breaking it. 4 seconds, the world grabbed the mask and handed it to Izuku. 3 seconds, Izuku grabbed the mask and placed it inside his vest. 2 seconds, the world disappeared and Izuku exited the museum. 1 second, Izuku was 1 block away from the place and grinned Soshite, Toki wa Yuga Kidasu. The world turned back to normal, as people and animals moved again. He smirked hearing the alarms of the museum go on. Even if this doesn't work, I can sell it for something, Izuku thought with a chuckle. Izuku's room. Izuku was eyeing the mask on his hand as he was laid on his bed, the world floating next to him. He looked info about the mask in the internet and found nothing, making him frown. He closed his eyes and sighed, deciding to sit down. Guess that stealing this mask was murder after all. But he doesn't lose anything by trying it on, right? He placed the mask on his face, and the mask stuck to his head and his eyes shined red and so did the world's eyes. Izuku felt pain. Simple as that. He tried to rip the mask off, and after a few seconds, he managed to do it. He was hunched and breathing hardly. He looked at the eyes of his stand and saw them red, making him grin. Jejej. Jajaja, jajajajajaj. Izuku laughed like a maniac. He could feel it coursing across his veins. The power. Who gives a damn about his humanity? He had just become bigger than humanity as a whole. Now, do I get something more? Izuku asked, deciding to go for a walk. It was night time, so he decided to try if he has something new. He was walking, with a purple shirt, red scarf, brown pants and his red sneakers. He was swinging his arms at his side as his red eyes glowed in the dark. The first things he noticed, was that he now had enhanced senses. Better sight, better hearing and better smelling. He went to a park, where he saw a drunk couple trying to walk. He grinned, his first experiment. He walked behind them, and before the girl could react, he stabbed her neck with his hand, making her spit blood. Izuku grinned maniacally. I am stronger now, he muttered as he felt something course into his arm. Blood, who cares? He feels stronger now. He yanked his hand out of her neck, making her now bony corpse fall to the ground. He eyes the running boyfriend and felt something come from his eyes. In a blink, his eyes shot laser beams, piercing his abdomen, making him fall to his knees as he held his stomach in pain. Izuku didn't say anything. He just walked to him, stabbed him on the back with his hand as he started to drain his blood. Thanks for the meal, Izuku chuckled as he drained the man. He took his hand out with a grin and screamed to the sky, "Wryy. Hey you. What are you doing?" Izuku looked behind him without turning around and saw a cop running to him. Izuku smirked. Once the police officer arrived, there were only 2 corpses on the scene. The MUD report said that both of them didn't have any blood on them. Izuku's room. Izuku had the mask on his hand and was eyeing it with malice. He chuckled before tossing it onto the air, where the world punched it, breaking it. Now, he is the only ultimate life form. In here, Izuku can be in sunlight. Why? Because plot reasons. Next chapter, 2 offers, 2 worlds. Chapter 3, 2 offers, 2 worlds. Welcome Izuku. I am so glad that you agreed to come to see our offices. Izuku nodded with a smile as he followed the representative of Taka Enterprises, one of the biggest support companies in Japan. Thank you for inviting me. I am excited to see everything, Izuku said, a glint on his red eyes. In reality, he just wants to work here to gain more information and influence in the hero world. His grades were good enough that many companies offered internship as he goes to the university. He impressed the owner of the company. One time he went to his school for an exposition. His smarts, charisma, and ability to make business impressed Ichigo Taka, the owner of Taka Enterprises, enough to offer him to shadow him. Here we are. Mr. Taka's office, the representative said, and Izuku nodded as he walked in. Mr. Taka. Is me, Izuku. Ichigo Taka was a tall man, with gray hair, a black business suit. Smiled softly at him. Please Izuku, call me Ichigo. After all, you are my new apprentice. If you accept, of course. Izuku chuckled. I am really close to accept. I mean, everything looks amazing. But, are you sure you want a quirkless boy shadowing you? Ichigo chuckled. I don't mind something like. After all, someone smart as you is valuable for us for that simple reason. Here, in Taka Enterprises, your brain is our weapon. Izuku chuckled. Thank you for having this much hope on me. Ichigo nodded, smiling. No problem. Now, shall we start the tour? That night, a young woman was running away from that monster in human form. She turned into an alley and hid behind some trash bags. She didn't hear anything for a while, and poked her head, and that was a fatal mistake, as a hand came from top of her, stabbed her neck, lifted her from the floor as her blood started to be drained. Once her body became bony, Izuku threw her body away, and jumped from the wall he was stuck on and landed on his feet. He scoffed and turned away only to be sucked into a black mist. Once he noticed he was captured, he narrowed his eyes and glared at the mist man behind the bar. Welcome Mr. Midoriya. May I serve you a drink? The man asked as Izuku grinned and rushed to him, raised his hand, ready to stab him, as a portal opened and left his hand in another place. I wouldn't try that again, the mist man warned, and Izuku scowled as he pulled his hand back from the portal. A lowly insect like you can't give me orders, Izuku said as he shot lasers from his eyes, only to be warped into another place, making Izuku sneer. Why you? Izuku glared with hate as the mist man that narrowed his yellow eyes. I am going to offer you one last time, do you want a drink? He asked in a threatening voice, and Izuku growled before grinning. Zawarudo. Tokiyo Toma. 5 seconds, Izuku slammed the barman head on the counter 2 times. 4 seconds, Izuku threw him across the room. Mid-fly, he stopped in middle of the air. 3 seconds, the world punched him on the head, towards the ground. Izuku smirked. Soshite, Toki wa Yuga Kidasu. Time resumed, and suddenly Kurogiri found himself feeling immense pain on his head as he crashed down on the floor. He tried to stand up as he spitted blood, making Izuku chuckle. If you don't mind, I'll take a drink before I leave, he said, grabbing a bottle of wine, opening it up and drinking straight from the bottle. You're quite strong. How did you do that? Cheat code. Izuku stopped drinking, wiped the alcohol with his hand and stared at the teen with light blue hair, red eyes, all dressed in black. Who are you? Izuku asked back as the world appeared behind him. For your own good, you better be smarter than your friend over there, he said, pointing at the concussed Kurogiri. The teen giggled. My name is Tomura Shigaraki, and I have a business proposition for you. Izuku scoffed and the world smirked. And what makes you think that I will listen to you? He asked him in a mocking tone. Tomura chuckled. I don't know. Hey, you are a vampire? Tomura asked suddenly, and Izuku raised a brow. Changing the topic, are we? Why yes, but I don't die with steaks or sunlight. And I like garlic with some foods, Izuku said, and Tomura laughed. You're funny. And you drink blood? You can say that. Do you want All Might's blood? Izuku's eyes widened at the question. All Might's blood? He scoffed. Of course I do. But I am not a fool. Beating him is impossible, even for me. Tomura grinned. But what if I tell you that he is weakened? Izuku smiled. Then I would listen to your proposal. This is something you might not know, but I am a good businessman. Tomura laughed. I like ya. You see, we're a group of underground villains, with the objective of killing the fake symbol of peace. With your help, I think we will make it. Tomura explained like a child, and Izuku resisted to roll his eyes. He faked a smile. It sounds like a great plan, Tomura. The one condition is that I will drain All Might's blood. That's the only reason. He accepted. If he drains the number 1 hero blood, he will grow even stronger. Stronger than anyone else. Tomura giggled. Then, you accept? Izuku smirked. I do. Weeks later, Taka Enterprises. Congratulations to our new intern, Izuku Midoriya. Ichigo Taka said as he raised his cup, as he was alone with Izuku in his office. Izuku chuckled as he raised his own cup. Cheers. Ichigo laughed as he drank. I am so happy you accepted my offer, Izuku my boy. I know we will make great things from this. Izuku smiled as he nodded. I'm sure we will, he said before drinking from his own cup. A knock on the door called their attention as a blonde woman entered the room. Excuse me, Mr. Taka, but Izuku? Izuku's eyes widened. Mrs. Bakugo he faked a smile, feeling disgust to anyone related to Katsuki. It's been a while. The woman, Mitsuki Bakugo, grinned at him. Please call me auntie like you used to. I haven't seen you or Inko since you left school. What are you doing here anyway? Ichigo smiled. He is my new apprentice, Mitsuki. I am going to teach him everything I know. Well, at least you are in good hands, kiddo. Mitsuki said. Hey, you and your mom should come over to eat one day, she offered with a smile. Izuku nodded, smiling with his eyes closed. That's not a bad idea. I'll tell her. Mitsuki grinned as she ruffled his hair. And besides, we will have a lot of time to catch up now that we work together. Izuku grinned as his eyes had a glint that could not be seen. Yes. There will be a lot of time. Let's use it the best we can. That will be all everyone. I hope you enjoy the video. Like and subscribe for more.